Imagine being the most powerful guy in the entire world, and after you die, you end up being reborn in 2099. But while you were dead, the whole world evolved. Now, all your mythical spells are nothing more than cheap tricks. Well, my friends, this is the story of a legendary demon king who will have to adapt to this new era of technology. Without further ado, let's get into the video. 500 years ago, there were two forces fighting for the dominion of ALNAETH. The first was the mortals, who had only a very limited lifespan, and the other was the immortals, who were free from the chains of death. After they continued this war that divided the world in two, their fate would be decided in a deadly battle between two men. The great hero Graham, who received the sacred sword from the goddess Meldia, and the great demon Lord Velton, who ruled over all the immortals in this world. The madman starts casting his magic, and suddenly a giant sword appears, capable of decapitating anything. Then suddenly the battle begins, and my friend, it was a full-on brawl. The Demon King starts using an overpowered spell, but the hero wasn't playing around either. But in the year 1599, on the 12th day of the month of the dragon, this story ended in the blink of an eye. The legendary Demon King acknowledges his defeat and says he truly recognized the effort of this mere mortal. After they chat a little, the Demon King Velton asks how he lost if he was superior in every way during the battle. The hero says that perhaps humans could be seen as fragile to him, but it was exactly that light that gave them the strength to keep fighting to live. Velton tells the hero to be careful because where there is light, there will always be darkness. And as long as that darkness exists, he will always return because he is an invincible king. After the Demon King dies for good, the hero turns his back and says he will always keep fighting against that darkness. When the flashback ends, Velton wakes up with a strange girl calling his name. She introduces herself as one of the 6 dark pillars, better known as Imagina, the Duchess of Blazing Flames. After introducing herself, she says she has waited 500 years for this moment. She even apologizes for greeting him in such attire, but he says it's no problem since she satisfied him with the reincarnation system. He asks where they are, and she says they are in a dungeon beneath an old station called Shinjuku. He says it doesn't matter, and it's time for the Demon Lord to return to ruling ALNAETH. Machina says that, unfortunately, the world he wanted to rule had already perished. As they walk, she says that 80 years ago, their world, which existed in another dimension, was struck by a catastrophe. This event became known as Fantasian, and during the first 3 years, 90% of the population had been wiped out. Now the government only knows how to act individually, and because of that, there were 2 wars between these states. But she says that's all in the past, and now the industrial civilization has the most advanced technology. When the door opens, Velton is faced with something completely new. She says they are in the year 2099, and this is the purest form of technology. While he is shocked by the evolution of humans, a man bumps into them and apologizes, saying he got distracted. After the Demon King dies for good, the hero turns his back and says he will always keep fighting against that darkness. When the flashback ends, Velton wakes up with a strange girl calling his name. She introduces herself as one of the 6 dark pillars, better known as Machina, the Duchess of Blazing Flames. After introducing herself, she says she has waited 500 years for this moment. She even apologizes for greeting him in such attire, but he says it's no problem since she satisfied him with the reincarnation system. He asks where they are, and she says they are in a dungeon beneath an old station called Shinjuku. He says it doesn't matter, and it's time for the Demon Lord to return to ruling ALNAETH. Machina says that, unfortunately, the world he wanted to rule had already perished. As they walk, she says that 80 years ago, their world, which existed in another dimension, was struck by a catastrophe. This event became known as Fantasian, and during the first 3 years, 90% of the population had been wiped out. Now the government only knows how to act individually, and because of that, there were 2 wars between these states. But she says that's all in the past, and now the industrial civilization has the most advanced technology. When the door opens, Velton is faced with something completely new. She says they are in the year 2099, and this is the purest form of technology. While he is shocked by the evolution of humans, a man bumps into them and apologizes, saying he got distracted. She tries to change the subject by asking if he's thirsty, but he says he's fine. She mentions that the air in this place is very polluted for him, and it would be better for her to fetch a drink for him. As he faces the new technology of the place, suddenly some lights start circling the city, heading toward a girl. As soon as she snaps her fingers, numerous adult commercials start appearing all over the city. While everyone wonders who did it, she starts running away, laughing at them. Then Velton appears and asks what she just did. She even pretends not to understand and says she has no idea what he's talking about. He says there's no point in lying because he saw those lights around her very clearly. She is surprised that he discovered her secret so easily, and she asks who he really is. He introduces himself as Velton, the legendary Demon Lord, and she asks if he's gone mad. The guy says he understood that she made those fake projections, but he has no idea how she did it. After receiving the compliments, she becomes all giddy and says it wasn't even that incredible. After explaining that it's called hacking, he still doesn't get it. She says that despite her looking like a kid, she also faces challenges that could cost her life. She begins explaining that there was a weak point in the programming made by IHMI, which, by the way, is the largest technology company in this city. And since she was bored, she decided to throw in those 18+ ads to get back at that corrupt system. Velton cuts the conversation short, saying he's looking for a man named Marcus. She says if he goes to the top of that tower, he will find a famous company called Marcus. After ending the conversation, the Demon Lord decides to head to that company. Arriving there, He finds a cute creature waving at him, but he completely ignores it. When he reaches the reception, the robotic attendant asks what he wants to do there. He says he's looking for Marcus and that she should just let him know he's here. He'll understand what it's about. Suddenly, Marcus's secretary appears and says they've been eagerly awaiting his return. After introducing herself as Kinohara, she asks what his problem is. He asks what this mysterious creature is, and she says it's the mascot of the magical industries they are so proud of, and that they intend to start a movement through it in the very near future. Entering Marcus's office, Marcus says it's been a long time since they've spoken. Velton says it's disrespectful for him to remain seated before the Demon King, and he asks what he came here to do. He orders Marcus to help him rebuild his immortal kingdom again, and he should be happy about his resurrection. Upon hearing this, Marcus starts laughing like a maniac and says he refuses to help his former king. Velton asks how he dares to belittle his name, and just as he tries to attack him, that woman shows up, trying to slice him in half. He asks if that was forging magic, and Marcus tells her to put the sword away and not to interfere. Marcus starts mocking Velton, saying that if this had been in the past, his wound would have healed the moment he was cut. He says Velton has become too weak, and it's impossible for him to dominate this world, and that all the fame he had in the past has been erased and left behind. After mocking him, he says he can go easy on him if he kneels and begs for his life. As soon as Velton hears this, he even tries to cast a spell on him, but Marcus uses a spell-breaking magic and says he was 2 steps behind. The Demon King can't understand what's happening, and Marcus mocks him, saying he's a failure, and even though he uses chantless magic, now he's no match for a simple guy who doesn't even have talent for magic. He says that's the reason, and Velton asks what he's trying to say with that. Suddenly, a presentation starts on the screen, explaining the new fruit of humanity, a device capable of activating any magic without going through the magical activation process, and that everyone who uses this device can simply select the magic they wish to cast, allowing all kinds of people to turn their dreams into reality. After the explanation ended, he said that he made sure to prevent these devices from being used by superior beings like him, and that if he had such a device after being resurrected, he would definitely lose his advantage. When Velton tries to use his magic once again, he finds himself facing the same magic block as before. Marcus says that no matter how fast he was, the speed of his device was even faster, and that even though he's the Demon Lord, without this device, he's worthless in this new world. Velton asks why he's betraying him, and Marcus replies that he never truly wanted to be loyal to him. After all, he never tolerated the fact that Velton was arrogant and superior to him in everything, and since he was tired of having to serve such a stupid king, he decided to create his own reign. The Demon Lord asks if all of this was a mistake, and Marcus says he's glad Velton finally realized it. Suddenly, he starts activating his spells, hitting Velton squarely and sending him flying out of the building. He tells his secretary that now that the illusion of the old Demon King has fallen, he will finally be the new Demon Lord. Meanwhile, Velton begins to wonder why his regeneration was so slow, and when he bumps into a guy, he calls him insolent. When Machina starts yelling for her master, she ends up finding him lying on top of several garbage bags. He begins to wonder why he had been defeated once again, and if it really had something to do with that story about the light of life. Machina apologizes to him, and he asks why she's saying that. She says that if she had warned him about Marcus's betrayal sooner, she could have prevented him from suffering so many injuries, and he replies that it wasn't her fault, and that even if she had told him, he would have insisted on verifying it personally. When they finally arrive at her home, he says that, even though it wasn't charming, she did a great job hiding this castle in the modern era. As soon as he opens the door, he says this place is too small to be a warehouse. She says that this is actually her home, and he asks if that's a joke. After she says that her salary is low, he asks if she had been living like this all this time. He rests her head on his chest and says that her loyalty was evident in her eyes. He says she truly is a great servant, and she starts crying, saying that these compliments were far more than she deserved. Bro, the anime has just started and I'm already rooting for them to get together. I think it's going to be dating in... That's it, my partner, the video ends here, and if you like this anime, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. There are several new animes here on the channel and soon there will be new episodes of Dandadan, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, we're together and see you next time.
Just